Boom. Yes, sir. We're
Okay, there
rolling.
we go. We're rolling. Good morning,
Yes, sir.
everybody.
What's going
So
on?
it's Sunday morning,
Yes.
day of the
Yes.
Lord, and just giving Quentin some hell about
Right.
his coffee.
Right. No doubt.
Yeah, dude. So
Yeah.
I got my legit stuff.
Yes. Yeah. Hey, I'm send it to me whenever you're ready, man. I'm
Yeah.
all for it. I mean, I'm all for it. Definitely. Anything that I can do, support the brand, support you, support us. I'm all with it, man. Most definitely. Most definitely.
So okay, so tell me about your journey with the coffee. What's up? What do you like? What do you?
Man, I used to drink it all the time, every day. As active as I am, me personally, I feel like it dehydrates the body and takes away from the minerals that we need. So, but every now and then, maybe once, twice a month, I may have a coffee. And like today, I'm having a coffee just to not be so
Yeah.
after I just worked out, just
Yeah.
to keep that that pepness, that energy up. So that's kind of the only reason I'm drinking it. Really, is just to. But other than that, no, I'm really not much of a coffee drinker like I used to be. I used to drink it every day, you know what I'm saying, religiously. But, other than that,
How do you drink it? What do you drink? Like,
I'm
what's your
straight
style?
black,
Okay.
straight black. Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't add anything, just the old school John Wayne, straight out the
Yeah.
pot into the,
Yeah, I got you.
into the cup, man. How do you drink yours?
It depends. It depends. So, okay, check it out. So, I was getting ready to text you this morning because you know, here in Arizona, it's like constantly hot, like hot as hell,
Right,
triple digits. And this
right,
morning, I'm like it was a little chilly, like my hands are cold and stuff. So,
right,
I was getting ready to text you. I was like, you know what, man, it feels like a nice Sunday vibe,
right,
So
right.
it's kind of chill. So that's why I got my coffee. I brought my protein bar, but I haven't had it yet.
Okay,
Anyway, so I drink my coffee. It depends. Usually, like during the week, I'll drink it black,
right,
but obviously everything that I drink is my own roast. So
right. Yes, sir.
like I will either do a light roast for the extra caffeine, or I'll
Right,
do a medium roast.
right,
I mean, I'm spoiled, at home we're spoiled because it's like what country you want to, have coffee from today,
right,
like what do
right.
you want? What profile do you want,
Love it. Love it.
So anyway, but like on the weekends though, when I have a little bit more time, I'll get the espresso machine. I'll
Right.
do like some legit stuff.
Right.
Like, and then I'll play with some latte art, for
Yes,
the fun of
sir.
it. And then even my son, I mean, he's 5, and he's been kind of hooked on coffee, and so I'll make
Okay.
him like a little frappe,
Right.
and I'll go gangster with his though too. Like,
Right.
I would do the nice little designs on the cup, like with the
Okay.
swirls and the
Yes,
sprinkles on
sir.
top. I've got like the pumpkin confetti sprinkle things that you put
Yep.
on top.
Yep.
So yeah,
Yep.
so that's like for me, I like oat milk. That's how I like even eat my
Okay.
cereal and stuff.
Right. Right.
And so when I do a latte, I do that. But if
Okay.
I'm doing like a breve, which is half and half instead of
Right.
milk, it makes it a little bit thicker. And so it just kind of depends,
Right.
what I'm in the mood for. But
Yes, sir.
generally, I mean, I just drink it straight black, and sometimes I'll add a little bit of the pink sugar, whatever that is, the sweetener or whatever, like
Right.
half a pack, just
Right.
to kind of sweeten it up just a scotch. But yeah, yeah. But
Okay.
I saw you sipping, your
Right.
Starbucks, and I was like,
Hell
oh
yeah.
man,
No, I
uh,
can't.
you set the bad precedents there, dude.
No doubt. No doubt. I feel you, man. I feel
Yeah,
you. Yeah. As soon as you do you have any cups? With your logo on it or anything?
I've got a cup right now. And then I've got a guy that does like my signs and stuff, and we've talked about sports bottles, and we talked about
Right.
doing some cups,
Right.
and I have a friend that can also do cups, like different options. Just kind
Right.
of depends on what I want.
Right.
I've got like big ass tumblers here for sale
Right.
too. Like
Yeah.
that's funny because I see the memes where the dudes are portraying the women where they've got like a big ass trash barrel or a trash can,
Right.
that
Right.
makes them, and it's got as big as straw.
Right.
And so I've got like the big old 40-ounce tumblers here
Yes,
for
sir.
to cater to everybody.
Right. Right.
But yeah, and you mentioned about the coffee, how it would just normally dehydrate you, right?
Right.
So I've came out with another. So First Watts Nutrition is another brand that I own, and
Okay.
the
Let's talk
coffee,
about that.
okay, so I've got Southern Bean Coffee Roasters,
Right.
and then I've got First Watts Nutrition.
Okay.
And so I wanted the brands to separate, for one, because they're tailored differently to different
Right.
people. The
Right.
Southern Bean is like whole coffee, like, just, mostly whole beans, single origin,
Right.
very pure in that
Right.
sense, just
Right.
very clean. Like, and then I do K cups as well. People order K cups, and so
Okay.
we do that. I mean, that's what we have sold for day one.
Right.
And so then I came out with First Watch Nutrition, and I wanted that brand to stand out differently from Southern Bean. So then I'm
Right.
thinking like, okay, how is it going to be different? It's just coffee, right? How am I going to market it different?
Right.
And so First Watts is marketed more towards like, people outdoors,
Hmm.
people getting out, moving with a purpose, moving with intention. So then I was thinking, like, okay, for First Watts, let's play with the coffee recipe, if you will. Like that one is mostly sold ground. So I grind
Right.
it, I do it all myself.
Okay.
So, but then I start blending them. Like, let's try this country and this country. Like, let's try Ethiopian with like
Right.
some Mexican Chiapas coffee, and let's
Right.
see how the flavors will either complement each other or they won't. So again, the Southern Bean is just whole single origin, and then First Watts is like just my own recipe. But
Right.
the other element to that is that I also have a coffee that instead of dehydrating you, it hydrates you. So
Hey.
I've added some sodium, some potassium, and so it
Nice.
brings it back into the coffee. And
Right.
it's crazy because I've seen other people that do coffee online, and they have some people add actually salt to their coffee, like a little
Right.
teaspoon or whatever to their coffee. And the
Right.
reason why they do that is so that it takes the bitterness. But they have said like if the coffee is roasted well, if it's fresh, you don't need to put salt. So that's not something I've done or do,
Right.
but I know that the salt can be tolerated in the
Right.
coffee. So it's like, you know what, let's try this out. So then, like I said, I started adding some other things to the recipe to the First Watch Nutrition. And
Right.
so the logo is different. It's marketed with like a bike. And instead of putting like where it's from, it's more of like what it's tailored for. Like the dark roast is like, what I call the gravel grinder, which,
Right.
complements, getting out on the bike and, you want something strong
Yes,
tasting.
sir.
So anyway, and obviously the nutrition that I just launched as well, the aminos and
Right.
the recovery carb mix. So
Yes.
that's been successful this week too. People have
Nice.
really, I've gotten some good feedback. People have liked it. I've
Love it.
got some samples here at the shop too,
Okay.
and it's the bomb, dude. It's legit. It
Okay.
tastes
Yeah.
good. Yeah, yeah.
Hey, yeah, I need to order me I need to, when we get off or sometime, just send me an invoice. I need to order me some coffee and some of the First Watts amino acids. Yep. Cause
Hmm.
definitely, I definitely want to do that. Sounds like you got some great things going, coffee, amino acids, the bike shop. That all sounds like can you ride there? Like, is your bike shop, is it in the area where somebody's on a long ride? They could ride to you, have some coffee, have some amino acids, and then get
Hmm.
back on the journey. Nice.
Yeah, so obviously the Tour de Tucson is coming up in November,
Okay.
and people come here from all over the world, man. I mean, like the
Right.
guys from GCN came out here a couple years ago to participate in the race. They flew in
Okay.
from the UK, and so Tucson and Green Valley is it's like they're big on cycling.
Right.
And so the roads, they could be better. They could be a little bit wider to fit like the cyclists on some of these roads where they kind of get narrower. But
Right.
they do have a bike lane, pretty much all through Sahuarita and Green Valley.
Okay.
And so it's crazy because, like I would say half of the people that show up here at the shop have shown up on their bike. And so, man, I see that
Hey,
Starbucks.
hey,
Damn, dude.
I'm thinking about like, so
Damn.
when you see me go off camera, I'm
Yeah,
taking a sip, you know
yeah.
what I mean? Like, cause I
Or just
definitely
put
ain't
out a
trying to,
straw.
right. I definitely ain't trying to give them no promotion.
Yeah,
They good. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So
yeah.
definitely,
I'm just giving you
definitely.
shit,
Oh,
man.
I know, man. I know, man. Hey, we all do it. Like,
Yeah.
God dang. Yeah.
But yeah, so I've got a bike stand or a bike rack outside for the people that do just come in to just hang out. They can park their bikes outside.
Right.
Um and I bought myself a new bike too.
Okay.
Yeah,
Nice.
dude, it's crazy because my mom always used to tell me, she's like, she would see all my bikes in the garage, and she's like,
Right.
"Why don't you just open up a bike shop?" But she would say it jokingly, like I don't know, like I don't know, it was weird because that never occurred to me at the time. I was
Right.
working as an engineer,
Right.
and now it's like, you know what? Maybe she saw something I didn't,
Right.
and so it's crazy because it's a blessing to have the shop, but at the same time, it's like, damn, I want this one.
Right.
And so, sure enough, I got another road bike. I
Nice.
took off some of my components that I've got from my other bike and just kind of, did my own thing, customized it
Right.
already. I mean, it's got
Right.
half a mile on it. No, half a mile of outdoor miles. I think I put like 12 miles on the trainer on it
Okay.
already. But
Okay.
I've already, like just gutted it and started doing stuff to it
Right.
just to
Right.
make it my own.
Yes,
But
sir.
my bikes, the bikes that I carry here are retrospec. I've noticed that the frames are a little bit bigger
Okay.
than normally because I usually ride a small.
Right.
My gravel bike is actually a medium size frame and I can ride it pretty well.
Okay.
But this one that I ordered from them is an extra small.
Okay.
Now I'm 5'4", so for people just kind of using it as a reference, I guess that
Right.
their retrospect, their frames sit up a little bit bigger than others. But anyway,
Right.
I like it. It looks legit, looks vintage. It's
Right.
the one I sent you the picture of. It looks
Yes.
cool.
Yes. I
Yeah,
like it.
yeah,
I like it. Yeah.
yeah,
So you're talking about the bike sizes. Like I'm definitely going to get me a new bike the beginning of once the race season starts next season. I'm in the process of looking for one. You talk about the frames. Like I'm 5'9", so you like the frame. Someone my size, like a medium, a large. Would that be more tailored to me, as far as the frame size, something about like that? So, as you're saying that, I need to know, like, all right, medium, large is the size I need to be looking for. Is
right.
that
I guess just at a real high level, I would probably start considering a medium.
right?
But like I said, it just really depends on the manufacturer. Just
Right.
because you have, like, if you go with like a legit road bike
Hmm.
that the your top tube is lean for, or the geometry of the whole bike is lean more forward, like race type geometry,
Right.
then you might have to size down a little bit. Now, if
Right.
you have a bike that's slacked, that is more gravel oriented, where your top tube is slanted just a little bit so that that you have that 1 inch space
Right.
from between your legs to the tube so that you can,
Right.
when you stop, your feet are not like just hanging on one side or the other.
Right.
But anyway, at a high level, I would start with a medium, I don't know, maybe like a 17-inch frame, or some go by
Right.
centimeters.
Right.
But it's just a matter of going to like a bike shop, trying out what you like. But that's not going to be set in stone because, like, you might try out a Trek and it might fit you well on a medium, but you
Right.
might go to a Specialized and it might fit you, differently. You might have to size
Right.
up or size down. Like I said,
Right.
for me, I usually ride, between a small or a medium, and for this one, I had to get an extra small,
Right.
um, which it sounds weird. It's still a 700C, so the
Right.
size of the wheel doesn't change. It's just the
Right.
height. So
Yes.
I've got short legs. Other than the fact that I'm short, I have short legs.
Right.
So I don't have that much space. So especially when you're clipped in and you're coming up on a light, like on a red light, and you need to
Right.
unclip and get your feet on the ground.
Right.
Being able to touch the ground, the road when you stop is important because otherwise, like I said, you're tiptoeing. And when you're clipped in, it's like, for one, it takes time to practice and to learn those, how to do that.
Yes.
I ride SPD. I think you ride the Deltas, which are like the bigger size cleats.
Yep.
Mine are the SPD mountain bike style, just because I'm old school like that,
Yeah.
from
I
my
ride
mountain
the
biking days.
Shimano type,
Mm,
in which my shoes are more gravel. I have a flat foot, so I need something more wide. But I've seen where they have like the road cycling, they've started coming out with more wide cleats,
yeah,
which I'm glad that they did because I don't like
some of
for
them are
my,
narrow, dude.
yes, like,
Oh
I
my
don't like my
gosh.
toes to be in there like that. I want
Hmm.
them to be more, so then I can get more power, from my legs. So that's
Yeah.
why I kind of, looking for is, I got away from that type of style and went more to the gravel, but the
Hmm.
gravel are more heavy. So
Yep.
I feel like if I get like a lighter bike and some lighter cleats, I'm going to get faster. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So,
Yeah.
which is because I see at other races and I'm like, man, I know I can keep up with that person. Or,
Hmm.
no matter how my competitive edge kicks in and I'm like, I know I can hang with them. It's just
Yeah.
the fact you can tell that their bike is lighter. You know, they'll pick it up with 2 fingers or a whole hand and it'll be
Yeah.
real light. And so, excuse me, that's definitely what I'm looking forward to as this next race season coming in.
Hmm.
Fitting myself to something that's more tailored to me, to more what I want, and just going out and getting it. And you said what type of bikes do you have?
I carry Retrospect, and
Retrospect, yes,
yeah, and then I carry another brand called Soul Cycles or Soul
yes,
Bicycles. They're out of
yep.
Venice. Yeah.
So I'm gonna go back to your nutrition. Do you just have the amino acids, or do you have anything else that you're
So
selling?
I've got the amino, and the amino is caffeinated,
Okay,
and it comes from different sources. Part of it comes
okay,
from like green tea extracts, and then the other stuff just it's just regular caffeine.
right,
So I carry that. That comes in a little jar. It's like a 30 serving thing, and then
okay,
I have the carb mix, and that one's like a bigger tub. Think of it more as like an endurance supplement because
right,
if you are on a mountain bike ride, like a long race, like I say mountain bike, if you've got a bladder, you can easily put a scoop or two in there, fill up the rest with water because it
right,
has the sugar in it,
right.
it has the hydration parts, like so the magnesium, the potassium, it has all of that, and the
Yes,
sodium to keep you going.
right.
So those are the two supplements that I have right now. And then, obviously you and I have talked about expanding, and I've wanted to do the gummies, not the
Right,
CBD. I don't do any of that stuff, but
right,
like the melatonin,
right,
and like a
right.
vitamin. I've wanted to do that. So that might be the next thing that I venture into.
Okay.
And then, the protein will probably be the next thing that I
Yes.
break into as well.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir. Definitely. I like that. I like
Yeah.
that.
And then you mentioned having an initiative to start that too.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yes.
let's chat about that.
Yeah, man. Everlife Wellness is the brand that I'm going with. I'm going to be coming out with one soon. I'm in the talks with some wonderful people you've introduced me to, and I appreciate that. Everlife Wellness. I'm going to come out with a green immune system superfood type of mix. It's all natural ingredients, all extracted from fruits and vegetables. More tailored to what my background is and what I like. And, you can use it for anything really. It's going to give you the body, the nutritional, the what it needs for, before, after, or during a race, to fuel the body with what it needs, whether you're depleting or recovering. And so I feel like, as I get more into it, it's going to be a great thing. And I'm going to be, after that, as you were saying, we're going to be possibly coming out with a protein. And I'm after this one, I may come out with one that's more tailored to the ingredients of what I want in it. From everything that's in there is going to be sourced from a whole natural, holistic type of, product that, most people like, most people want, may not want, but, it's, I'm going to have them to what, you have some that really don't matter what's in it as long as it's giving them what it's need. And some look
Right.
at the ingredients. And so, I want to tailor to both people as far as that comes. And so I'm excited about it. Definitely excited
Yeah.
about it. Getting my design going. And if not late this year, early next year, I'll be coming out with it and I'm going to introduce it here on the podcast
Mm-hmm.
so that, so
Mm-hmm.
be on the lookout for that.
Yeah.
For those that are, interested, as well as, with George, what he has going, the First Watts, nutrition, as this podcast is tailored to health and wealth and, getting people active. And, if you're not active as you're listening to us, you may want to start getting active. So, I'm
Yeah.
definitely excited about it, man, and to see where
It
it's
all
going to
starts
go.
from something, man. It all starts from
Yes.
somewhere.
Yes.
Something's got to trigger you to get
Yes.
you moving. But
Yes.
like we talked about on our last recording, where it was like it doesn't have to like the vision, the way you think of working out, it doesn't have to be like, for one, intimidating, or it doesn't have to be like, crap, I got to work out. We
Right.
can make it fun.
Right.
We can make it really fun and
Right.
enjoy. There's just, you just need to break that barrier and figure out
Yes.
what works for you. Because like I told
Yes.
you, I'm not a person that goes to the gym. Just
Right.
can't be surrounded, like lined up with a whole bunch of treadmills and
Right.
like, you know what I mean? I just, that's not my style, but it might
Yes,
work out
sir.
for others.
Yes, sir.
And so we've talked about, you and I, doing some recording, um, while we're out, like,
Right.
out and about. So
Right.
for those listening, I think that would be cool because,
Yes.
it like, just put us on, put us on, in your ear, and
Right.
that way, we're all running together and people can start adapting or start learning how to the breathing technique,
Yes.
what pace you're supposed to be running at,
Yes.
and the
Yes.
distance too, and obviously the proper hydration,
Right.
to go along with it. Because believe it or not, if you're out running just for like a 30-minute, you don't have to have that water bottle.
Right.
Your hands could be free, and
Right.
there's ways to go about it, the
Yes.
proper way.
Yes.
But yeah, so I'm looking forward to that because I think I pitched that idea to you like a year ago.
Yes.
I just,
Yes.
it was one of my recordings that I had that, while I was
Yes.
out running, I was like, you know what, Quentin and I need to, record um a podcast, an audio podcast while we're out
Yes.
running.
Right.
Anyway, I think that's gonna be cool when we do that.
Yep.
And we've even talked about, or I know probably more so me, about indoor riding,
Right.
on the
Right.
trainer. I think
Yes.
that's another good idea.
Yes.
Just even a live one. I think that would be cool.
Yes. Yes. I've got my trainer set up and ready
Mm-hmm.
because it's going to get cold here. So I was like, I've got to get
Yep.
my trainer more.
Mm.
I said I'm going to become once this winter, I'm going to become more of a runner, but still cycle on my trainer. Cycle on my trainer more as I, prepare to run my first half marathon next year.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm
I see you racking up the miles this
yes,
few days ago,
man.
man. I
Yes,
got you.
man. Yes. I'm trying to get my George on, man. It's like I say, I was one that as we talk about people that, starting, when I first started, 3 miles seemed like forever when I was running,
Yeah.
just like, all right, I'm going to go run and then get these 3.1 miles out. And it's like, now it's like I could walk 3 miles, and so the journey, then that was 10 years ago,
Right.
and so, I quit running there for a while. Then I just hit the gym and then I just started back running. I did a race last year. I ran up Nebo. That was my first time running
That
and
was
probably,
the chicken fry, wasn't it?
yes,
Yeah, I
yes,
remember. Yep. Mm-hmm.
yes. That was my first time running and, in a while. And I just did that out of a whim. And so now it's like, you know what? I'm starting to get that runner's high back again. I'm enjoying it. I'm loving it.
Yeah.
Adding that to my routine. And, I'm trying to make it to where it's, I get motivation from seeing people that are 70, 80. They're still out running, walking, just still putting that foot to the ground,
Mm-hmm.
not really worried about the time or distance. They're just, I'm going to go hit the feet on the ground and wherever I go, whatever I feel, that's what it is.
Right.
And, and just doing that, having that mindset, it helps, a lot because, and not be so worried about, oh, I've got to do this or this time, man, forget all that shit. Just get out and do it.
Right.
And, you were talking about, you're not a person who likes to hit the gym. I was told this story where somebody was listening and the guy was like, if you don't want to go into the gym, just pull up and sit in the parking lot and just do that every day until you feel like getting out, going into the gym and then slowly start to work your way into it.
Right.
A lot of people's problem is, not a problem, just it's a fear of other people are going to judge me or I don't know what to do
Yeah.
type of
Oh, that's
thing,
big. That's big time.
and so that's kind of why I like the personal training that I do. Like there's not a lot of people, nobody's going to judge you. Only people who's going to judge you is yourself. Cause I'm not going to judge you. I've started somewhere. We've all started somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So once you start, I want you to get that feeling of don't need a gym. I can work out anywhere,
Yeah.
cause I had that. Oh, I need a gym. I need to go work out in this gym. And now it's like, man, really, I have a gym. Yes, I own a gym,
Mm-hmm.
but a lot of times I really don't work out in the gym. I'm
I think of
outside.
your gym more like a box, like a
Yes.
like a CrossFit box. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yes.
I say that because going back to like my CrossFit days, obviously there's the equipment, right? The squat rack
Right.
and all that, and the
Right.
boxes and everything. But
Right.
the thing with you know, CrossFit or in your scenario is about like, let's say you're going to the gym, you know, and you've got that thing going, and where you're like, oh, I'm gonna hit it, you know. But then
Right.
let's say you've got a trip coming up, you know,
Right.
and you're gonna stay at a hotel for a few days or whatever,
Right.
and so that broke your routine, and that's a setback when you come back.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
it's not having that dependency to the gym, and so to be able to work out, to stay active wherever you are, regardless of your environment. You know what I
Yes.
mean? Yeah, I think
Yes.
that's important. So that's why I do like,
Very
you know, that
important.
where you are and what you do, because it's
Yes.
very, you obviously you have equipment,
Right.
but it's stuff that you can use alternatives for. You know,
Right.
you don't have the
Right.
dependency on a machine. You know, it's
Right.
like free weights almost. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yes. Especially as I've gotten more into yoga and to stretching, it's like really all you need is a mat and somewhere and, you're good. Like,
Mm-hmm.
as you're saying out of town, like, I always bring my yoga mat with me. If the gym I don't really worry about, but I'll just stretch,
Yep.
lay the yoga mat out and just stretch, do my stretches, do my breathing.
Mm-hmm.
Because, as we were talking about breathing, that's really the key to anything is getting your breathing down. And once you get your breathing down, you're going to be able to prolong your workout and whatever you're doing to sustain maximum effort,
Yeah.
especially learning how to breathe. Yoga has taught me how to breathe, not through puffing up the chest, but breathing through the stomach, pushing out the stomach, and then breathing out is so key. When I was on my long run, that's how I was breathing, just breathing in, pushing out through the stomach, breathing out. And, a lot of times I've also realized that holding my breath while I'm doing a run or a bike helps me as well. It helps get the blood flowing to places where I may feel like, oh, if I'm tight in the hips or if my leg may be a little sore, if I feel it, that breathing gets that blood flowing to there. And it also helps with my posture, cause
Yeah.
a lot of times we're bent over, especially looking at the phone. So then when we run or do something, we're like this. And so we're not getting that oxygen flow to what we need throughout the body,
Right. Yep.
and so definitely 100%, you know, the gym is not necessary, but I understand it can be for some people,
Oh, for sure. Yeah, for sure.
and so, there is no right or wrong way. Everybody has their way of doing it, as long as I have this motto, movement is medicine, the more, that's really the number one medicine that we need. If we're feeling some type of way, move the body, listen to the body, that movement is our medicine.
Mm-hmm.
And, use, and also using it or lose it. If you don't use the body to what it's capable of, then you're just going to lose all the muscle, the bone deterioration is going to start. And then you're going to feel old, but the more you move, the younger you're going to feel.
Right. Yep.
So I'm sure you feel the same way, even though we're both 40, I'm sure we feel younger and better than when we did when we were in our 20s and 30s and not moving as much.
Yeah. Yep. 100%, man. So you mentioned about breathing. I don't think about it as much anymore when I'm
Right.
out on my runs.
Right.
To me, I don't know, maybe because I think I'm more accustomed to monitoring the data while I'm doing it. Because
Yes.
again, I am big on what zone are you in, and what
Right.
zone is your heart supposed to be in. And
Right.
and if you've got a training plan, let's say a 6-week plan, sticking to it. Um,
Yes.
because, like we talked about last week about going out on a zone 2 ride, and you've got someone that you know, wants to push out some power, and now, everybody's forced to crank up. And so now you're
Right.
out of that zone that you were, designed to be in for that
Right.
day.
Right.
And so now your heart puts you in a different zone. So now you're not burning fat. You're not in that fat burning. Now you're burning carbs, and it's
Yes.
going to take like 30 minutes for your heart to go back down,
Yes.
to readapt. So, for me, again, I don't think about my breathing as much anymore, especially
Right.
when I'm doing my long distance runs, my endurance
Yes.
runs, just because I'm watching my heart rate, and I know what range I'm supposed to stay in.
Yes.
And if I'm creeping up higher than my heart rate zone, I know I need to bring it back down a little bit.
Yes.
Because I mean the training's not a race. Training is training. So if
Right.
you need to run a little bit slower, then that's what needs to be done. And
Right.
so, and there's other elements that are going to affect your heart rate too. Like, how well did you sleep last night?
Right.
Did you drink last night?
Right. Right.
And so,
Yes.
is your body still digesting, a load of food that you
Yes.
just ate? So a lot of other elements are going to affect, your how your heart rate reacts to
Yes.
your run or your ride for that matter.
Yes.
So, yeah, like I said, for me, I keep an eye on
Right.
my heart rate and what
Right.
zone I'm supposed to stay in. But there's a thing called a negative split when you're out running. And so
Right.
that's another cool thing because, okay, let's say I'm just going to do a 6 mile run. I'm finishing up mile 4. I feel pretty good. I know my distance that I have left over. I know how much time, approximately I have to complete this. And so every once in a while, I'll do a negative split.
Right.
And so I'll run a little bit faster than the first, 4 miles, just because again, I know how much water I have left. I
Right.
know how much energy I have left. I know the distance that I need to go up to. So, and I think that a lot of the people do it the opposite. A lot of people, you've got fresh legs, you just woke up, people will start out faster
Right.
from the beginning, and
Right.
then your breathing is all jacked up,
Yes.
because you can only keep up, a sprint,
Yes.
for the first few minutes, and then you're like, and then you start breathing, and then you're out of breath, and you've got
Right.
5 more miles to go, dude. You know what I mean? Or
Yes.
whatever.
Yes.
So that's important is remembering that having a negative split might be in your favor,
Right.
just because again, you have a mile left, and you can empty the tank.
Right.
And so that's something that I like to do
Yes.
during my training days. Um,
Yes.
so I think we talked about a while back. For me, when I am doing when I do have a training plan, most of my runs are indoors on the treadmill because there's no outdoor elements that are going to affect your pace or a light.
Right.
Sometimes you get a long ass stoplight,
Right.
and you're just standing there like a
Right.
bozo for a couple minutes,
Right.
and it just threw you off.
Yes.
Now you have to pick it back
Yes.
up.
Right.
And so for my training, I do like the treadmill for that reason.
Right. Right.
But for my long endurance runs, I enjoy being outdoors, especially like right
Right.
now where, the leaves are starting to change, the
Yes,
leaves are
sir.
falling,
Yes, sir.
and I like it in that regard. Or doing nice gravel runs, everybody does gravel rides, gravel this,
Right.
gravel that. I like to
Right.
do gravel runs, and we've got a lot of that, in the mountains over here.
Right.
it it breaks it up. It just breaks up the elements,
Right.
just because you're out there running, like, and you're more in tune with like nature than you are with a whole
Right.
bunch of cars or running,
Yes.
crosswalks or whatever.
Yes.
So yeah.
Yes. I'm in total agreement. You're talking about the heart rate every decade, as we get older, we should know what our heart rate is, our burn fat rate, so that we know to stay there. And, as we get older, it's going to obviously get a little, if I'm saying, yeah, it's going to get less because our energy and how we move is going to be a lot less than when we were younger.
Hmm.
And so, but once we can get that heart rate up and keep it there and go past that, then that's when the longevity and the blood circulation is what's going to keep us younger and healthy and moving,
Right.
throughout the process. And a lot of people want to say, this and that, it depends, but I feel blood circulation is the key to health and longevity of health. If your blood is circulating throughout the body good and you're getting that heart rate up, you're going to live a long and prosperous life. Obviously, what we eat and the things we do, outside of that. But if we're able to keep that heart rate up and keep it up for a sustainable amount of time, you're looking at a nice, pretty, a good longevity. Obviously there are some people that don't, that I've met people that are 80 and they say they walk 3 miles a day. They've walked 3 miles a day every day since they were 40,
Hmm.
so obviously, there's different, but they don't, what they intake in the food, obviously, depending, has a lot to do with that. But, just moving and knowing your heart rate zone, as you were
Hmm.
saying, helps with longevity and quality of life for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. I mean, when you get older, your max heart rate decreases.
Yes.
And so it's good to, like in cycling, it's good to know your FTP, right?
Right. Right.
And so and the same goes with your heart, is monitoring or measuring your max heart rate, knowing what you're capable of. And then now you've got something to work with,
Right.
what's your resting heart rate and what's your
Right.
max heart rate. And
Right.
obviously there's a formula that, anyone can find online where you can start, punching in the numbers based on your
Right.
age, based on your gender. And then you can input, your max and your resting heart rate. And then it'll start figuring out what zones, between 1 and 5 or 7
Right.
for that matter,
Right.
and so, but yeah, you are right. I mean, the older you get, inevitably your heart rate's going to, beat a little bit slower.
Right.
Hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yes,
Hmm.
sir.
Yeah.
So, we're talking about, we're talking about fitness, and, I'm a personal trainer, and you're a personal trainer as well. You're certified through ISSA.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Okay.
I am certified through the ISSA, not for the personal trainer part. Through ISSA, I've done the sports nutrition,
Okay.
the cycling course, and I'm doing the running course right now.
Okay.
And then I am a level 1 coach through Training Peaks.
Yes. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. That's awesome, man. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yep. Those are, I just had mine completed maybe about a few months ago. I've been training, but I just did it because I wanted to, get, see what other info was out there, and, have a certification, behind my name. And so, that I learned some things, but a lot of things, obviously, I knew just from experience,
Hmm.
because, what you can do, go through a book and study, but obviously experience is going to help you learn and do it all, because you're going to have different people with different variations of movement and this and that you will learn over time, that it's like, okay. And then you will have almost a spreadsheet of, okay, this person is this age, they're doing this, they're doing that. Okay, I need to do this. This person, this age, okay, I need to do this. And, just getting that knowledge and experience over time is going to help, regardless. Cause, as doctors, even as they're doing it, they learn through experience and seeing and doing things more than just in a textbook,
Oh,
type of
for
way,
sure. Hmm.
so I feel like anything, in life, experience is going to help you. My mom and dad, they used to say a thing, mark that up for experience. Anytime I got in trouble or didn't, when I
Yep.
went through something, mark that up for experience. So it's like, okay, let me mark that up. And
Hmm.
I've got that. And, that's a lesson learned, whether good or bad. And, you take it and then move on with life. I don't ever feel that there's ever a loss. There's always a lesson that you can learn
Yep.
from anything that you do in life. As long as you have that outlook, okay, I didn't lose, but I learned and I gained better knowledge of that situation that I was in.
Right. Yeah, I agree with you 100%. In terms of it just depends on how your outlook in life, really,
Right,
because you know, to some, you know, downfall or some negative experience or a bad decision or whatever led to nothing,
right,
or it led to more bad things, because it's like, oh, I ate like shit this weekend. Well, I mean, I'll start again next week,
right,
so you know what I mean, like, to some people, like, that's almost like a reason to just keep going down.
right,
But like you said, everything is a lesson. It just depends on how you interpret it.
right,
And if you're willing to learn from it, then it was a
right.
valuable experience.
Yes,
And so
yes,
that is important to me. I had some people that came by to the shop a few days ago where, they one like their son, he's an apprentice at another bike shop, and it made me think, like, you know what, I think that that would be valuable to have someone here as an apprentice with
right,
actual hands-on experience, learning to do certain things on the bike
right.
is more valuable, I feel like, than just reading the textbook. But I mean, I
Yes,
do respect that. Again, you're certified, I'm certified. These are things that have to be done. We need
right,
them, for the
right,
credibility's sake.
right,
But in terms of, like, what have you learned, it is more hands-on for sure.
right. Yep. Because, there that saying, some people are certified and some people are qualified. You know,
Yeah, exactly.
you can
You
have
got it.
people that are certified, but they're not qualified to do that. And then you have people that are definitely qualified, but may not have the certification or, you know, whatever it is, that piece of paper that they need to succeed and help them go on, you know,
Yeah.
and, you know, expand. So definitely that is very true in a lot of aspects. You know, a lot of people will want to see that piece of paper, and a lot of people will just want to see that knowledge that you bring, you know, to the table, dare say.
Yeah.
So, you know, in different fields, it all, you know, depending on who's at the top and what they like and what they've been through and experience, you know, can really help with that.
Right.
For sure. For
Right.
sure.
Right.
For
So let me
sure.
ask you, since we're on the subject, what made you decide to go with NASM versus ISSA, or vice versa? What, like, did you have people that had already done NASM, or what's
Yeah,
your experience been like?
there was a lot of people that had already done it, you know, in ASM, and which is who I'm certified.
Hmm.
And so, you know, I was like, well, I'm going to give that a try. I recently was just hearing about ISSA, you know, over the past year or two, but NASM I've been known about for years. And so, you know, I was like, I'm just going to go that route. And if I decided to do anything else, have that start there. And then, you know, I can just continue going from there. But it wasn't, I felt anyone was better than the other. It was just,
Right.
you know, this is what it is. I'm going to go ahead and get this qualification certified through this. And then, you know, just keep that background from there, a
Right.
type of deal. So, you know,
Yeah, I think from what I've seen online and people I've interacted with, it seems like, ISSA and NASM are, like the leaders, the top
right,
in
right,
certifications. And then there's
right,
obviously some that are also competitors, but
right.
more widely known is those two.
Yes,
And so for
yes.
me, when I decided to go through ISSA, it was more so of like the company that I had partnered with at the time, another sports nutrition company, they had a partnership with ISSA. And
Okay.
so like, purchasing the packages or the bundles for these courses just made
Right,
more financial sense to do that.
right, right,
But so yeah, it's interesting to hear, I guess, the difference. But really, at the end of the day, I think that they're very similar in
right,
that sense.
right, right,
And then the same goes, like you've got the proctored, and then you've got the
right.
non-proctored,
Yep,
and so it just kind
yep,
of depends on what you're looking to do with it, really.
right.
You know,
Definitely.
yeah, yeah.
Definitely. Yep. Cause, you know, I've already, you know, before I got it, I was already personal training, doing sports and, you know, training with people. But, you know, I just like to, I always like to learn, always like to add to what I have into my bag, you know, adding yoga, adding, you know, the flexibility, mobility, you know, along with the strength training, the speed, the agility. Cause I train myself how I train everybody else. You know, I tell the kids, like, I train just how you train. I have a warm up, I have a workout, and then I have a cool down, you know. So I train, you know, even the speed and agility part, you know, with the running, I do all of that the same way these kids do it, you know, even, you know, to some things that I haven't even showed them that, you know, cause that could be more taxing, but I train the same way they do because, you know, I feel if it helps because it helps from a wide variety from 4 to age 94. Some people that are 70 or 80, they haven't been on their hands and knees in years. You know, I recently just got a certification to do chair yoga and kids yoga, you know, because I want to take the people that haven't been on the ground to help them get on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, because that's you know, doing that, they have grandkids, great grandkids. And so, you know, that's a vital part and to life is being able to get up and down off the ground. They may not know it because they haven't been taught that or understand it. So,
Right.
you know, just having them, you know, the understanding, hey, you're in this chair, but the goal is to be able to have you get on the ground and get up without having to use anything to help you get off the ground. And so, you know, I just take a lot of things that I learn, even from what I learned from NASM and what I've learned over the years. ISSA you may could teach me something that I didn't know and be like, okay, I can add that to the bag. You know, I don't
Yeah.
think that I ever know everything. No, you know, I'm always willing and wanting to learn, whether
Mm-hmm.
it's
I love that. Yeah.
fitness, you know, fitness, nutrition, just life, business, you know, Cause growing up, I don't know if you've ever people, they didn't want to learn anything. They were still stuck in what they learned in college from 22-year-olds, at 22, 24, and here they are at 50, and they're still thinking and doing that same motto and haven't learned anything. So it's like, that I feel like if you're stuck in that, there's an ever learning ability as we get older, just like the Karate Kid, a movie, Mr. Miyagi was teaching him, and then come to find out the kid was teaching Mr. Miyagi some things that he didn't know,
Yeah.
type of thing. So, it's the evolution of life. The teacher.
I've never seen that movie.
You haven't?
No,
Man,
I mean, I know it
no doubt.
exists
No
and I
doubt.
know what it's
Right.
about, but I've
Right.
never seen
Right.
it.
Right. No doubt. Yeah. I used to, when I would come in from playing, they would be movies on or whatever. And, that would be one of the movies that I would catch. I was a big
Yeah.
Jean-Claude Van Damme fan growing up.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
seeing him fight and doing the moves is kind of why that inner kid came into me, and is why I started doing yoga.
Okay.
His flexibility and being able to kick so high and jump, it was like, man, how does he do? He was, doing the obviously martial arts and all that, but his flexibility and yoga and mobility helped him do that with the jujitsu and all that type of training. So, definitely I, always, that's just going back to always wanting to learn and to do things type of thing. So for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
So let's talk about your race,
Oh,
your
man.
50 mile. How'd that go? What was on your mind?
Man, it was great. In my mind, I said, I'm not gonna, for future references, I'm not gonna do anything 40 or below. My mindset has changed to where I'm gonna do 50, working my way to 75 to 100 miles. So during that time, I was thinking about that, and, just thinking like, man, when I started, the first time I did the Big Dam Bridge in 2013 was 50 miles, so that was a killer back then, just starting out. And now it's like 50 miles is easy. I could easily do that.
Right.
And so, just thinking, did a lot of reflecting to where I started and to where I'm at now, and business wise, where I've grown and how I've grown as a person, as a man, as a father. As when you go out on long runs, you can, some things you may think about, and it may bring clarification to, whatever you need when you're out on those runs. And if you're thinking about something, it's like, okay, I could do this or I could do that. But, it was my mind always goes from one thing to another when I'm out on those long runs. And then I'll come back to the race. If somebody passes me, I'm like, damn, okay, then I get back to the race and I'm focused on what I need to do. But if I'm by myself and I'm just out there, I could think about anything, but it's definitely, whenever I'm there, it's about a lot of personal growth, whether it be business, the race, ways that can always better myself, because I'm not perfect. I know that. I've learned that, I'm still a perfectionist, but I still, I'm a perfectionist, but I know nothing's perfect, but I allow myself to grow and learn. As hard as I was on myself, I'm not as hard on myself now, because, hey, there's always a learning. I just want to finish.
Right.
I just want to finish any race that I do. I just want to finish anything that I do. I just want to finish. So, a lot of times, that when I was out there, just reflecting, more so proud of myself and how far I've came, and not so much, oh, I could do this. It's more so when I'm out there now, it's more, I'm proud of myself. I'm proud, that I'm doing it, and I know I'm going to get more better.
Yeah, it's a different experience when you're racing and knowing that you're, getting ready to cross the finish line.
Man,
you look forward to it, and really you can't, you won't know that feeling until you've been in it, until you've participated.
Yes.
I mean, I've gotten, emotional, and try not to cry like a little bitch, at the finish line. But, it is like, sometimes it's like, this was hard, and not that many people want to or can do that.
Right. That's real. No, and how you're saying emotional, like, and that's a mindset, we grew up in that era. Men don't cry, men, which is a lot of problems of why men are like they are today. They're scared to show their emotions and be that vulnerable, and at times in front of everybody.
Right.
And, that, that allows me to be a better coach and allow people to see my, as they say, softer side or vulnerable side. And like, hey, I don't know, a lot of people they'll see a coach, whether it be sports or whatever, and see them and they think, man, I love that coach. And when somebody does that, I'm like, I think they still have some issues they're saying that they should work on, because my idea of a coach is someone who's gonna see your problem and help you, and not see your problem and make you feel worse about it. You know
Yep.
what I mean? Like, it's enough. We've seen enough of that to where a coach is gonna yell you and embarrass you in front of everybody. Cause even I've stuck up for people in my younger days, like, hey, you didn't have to yell at him like that. He understands it. He gets it. Now let's move on.
Right.
Even if I was the player that the coach didn't yell at, I would stick up for that player. Like, even if they didn't get to play, he doesn't understand it. Teach him to understand it. And, I look back at things like, oh, I can see why I do things, and why I'm at now is because so that people can understand you're not failing. You just got to go at it a different way, or here, let me show you. And then let's do it this way. Cause that mentality of, I'm going off the, of what we're talking about. But you said, when you said crying like a little bitch, that made me think of that. It's like, you weren't crying. I get, that mentality, but you weren't crying. It's just that we were all, faced like, hey, don't cry. Don't, when crying is a solution, get that out. Now let's move on and go to the next one. Sometimes you gotta cry to get that out. Okay, woo, I got that. Okay, now I'm ready. Because there's been times, where, like you say, I've been on routes and I've cried, whether I'm thinking about missing my dad or, damn, I can't really figure this out, and it's like, okay, I figured it out now. Let's go get it. I know exactly what I need to do. You know what I mean? So definitely that's what made me think of that. And, it's not a right or a wrong, but the only time I think it's wrong is belittling someone and thinking that you're making them better when you're only making them worse.
Right. Yep.
So
I'm with you 100%. So what was your strategy? I mean, it was just, finishing, or did you, or were you in a pack? Were you trying to hold someone's wheel while you were out,
Man,
riding?
I was in a pack starting out. And then, once, as you start a race, there's little small gaps that we got to get through in the race. So I stayed in the pack. But after that, I felt like, oh, I'm not going to stay with this pack. And then I left them. And then, my whole thought process was I just wanted to finish, and complete the race. Cause I felt like this was, the 50, I'm not going to do it anymore. So this was like, a higher stepping stone that, okay, I'm going to finish this, complete it. And then I know I'm going to go on to bigger things.
Okay.
So I just wanted to more so complete it, not worry about my time, even though I said I did want to finish within 3 hours doing the 50, and I did, but if I didn't, it's okay. So, it was more so just about finishing and like, hey, I've rewarded myself and did good. And now I'm going to go on to something better and more challenging. And so, I just want to finish this and then go on to something else. So it was definitely, not in a pack, because, I go on a race solo dolo. It's just me, even though I like to form a team. And I feel like that's something you and I will do as we continue to do this, is form racing teams, running teams that travel all across the country and compete. And so, that mindset was just more finish and, just do the best that I can, for sure.
Yeah. How was your nutrition during the ride?
It was good. I fast. I feel my thought process is the body is built to do these type of things. So, my nutrition, I had watermelon and coconut water with some Celtic salt in it. And, I filled both my bottles up, and, that's kind of, my nutrition. But a lot of times my nutrition is I'll try to stay light and lean before a race. I may have a big meal and maybe a big salad or some chickpeas or some tofu that I'll eat, or in some fruit. But a lot of times, I try to stay light, or I'll eat if I know it's going to be a big, long race, I'll definitely pack on, the tofu, the chickpea, the fruits and veggies, and then, just burn that throughout the race. Cause I had 2 bottles during that 50-mile race, and I only drink half of when I try to hydrate and stay hydrated throughout the week and before that race. And, I can usually tell when I'm really hydrated because I don't really, if I try to hydrate before the race, and I'll know I'll be peeing a lot before the race, whether it's nervous energy or
Right.
I've had hydrated a lot, need to get that out. But, most of the times I try to hydrate, with coconut water and whatever juice that I make. I'm a
Mm-hmm.
big juicer. So I try to do that and, just stay hydrated that way. And then, the day of the race, I really don't eat or do anything. I just wake up, stretch and go and,
Okay.
allow my body to operate and focus on what I do. Cause I feel like the training that I'll do is helps, leading up, even though my bike was in the shop. So I didn't get to ride during that week.
Oh,
I
okay.
got it out of the shop like Thursday and I rode maybe 7 miles to kind of test it out to see.
Mm-hmm.
But, other than that, I feel confident with the running and the training that I do, in the gym and outside of the gym. I feel prepared to do it. And so, that really helped me, even though I didn't get to ride as much, throughout the race for sure.
So, do you monitor your heart rate while you're out there?
Not so much.
Oh,
I have when I'm done, I'll look at my max heart rate. Like when I go play basketball, my max heart rate will be 180, 185.
okay.
And I'm like, damn, that's good, because when I'm exerting a lot of quick, fast energy,
Mm-hmm.
starting, stopping. And I feel that helps when I bike so that when it's time to push, I can push past that and be able to work on, my endurance and strength as well. But,
Right.
as you say, I've just started to look during that time, but a lot of times, I don't, but I have slowly started to focus on that
Yeah.
because I see how it can, when I'm feeling this way, what is my heart rate at? So then I
Right.
can ramp it up even more,
Right. Right.
I usually focus on the time, but as you said, you figure out the zones. I have started to realize, okay, I'm feeling like this. What is my heart rate at?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now I realize, okay, I can push it or I'm good. Let me stay right here. So I
Right.
don't, but I have started to look into that more for sure. For sure.
So, as far like, okay, so when you were done with the race, how did you feel? I mean, did you feel
Man,
spent?
I felt great. Like,
Okay.
I felt great. I wasn't tired. I wasn't, I need to sit down.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I felt great, and
Okay.
that's how I usually do my trainings.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever I'm training or doing something, like, how do I feel after?
Right.
Cause that will tell me what I need to work on.
Yeah,
And as
exactly.
long as I feel, great after my training, then I know after a race, I'm going to feel great, during it. So yeah, I mainly focus on, the hydration and blood circulation. And, that I feel helps me a lot to where it's like, okay, I'm good. Yesterday I ran the 8, which is the longest I've ever ran.
Mm-hmm.
And so, after that race, after that run, I felt great. And so I was like, okay, my hips were a little sore. Okay. So, today I worked out, I did core, cause I feel like the stronger I work my core, then I know that, cause that's all connected to my hips and
Mm-hmm.
lower back. The more that I can work that, then I know that once I do longer runs, then I can feel better. So yeah, I definitely don't have that spent feeling that, I don't take any pre-workout. My pre-workout is maybe some juice and some juice and some cayenne pepper.
Oh shit. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because that really gets deep into the blood. So I'll
Mm-hmm.
boom take a shot of cayenne pepper with my juice, and it doesn't have that that crash.
Right.
I'm steady going. So I've also learned that the peppers, anything hot, that's good for the body, the circulation. So the peppers, the jalapenos, the bell peppers.
Mm-hmm.
I try to get a lot of those. Anything spicy, to get that blood flow flowing. So definitely, that's kind of my nutrition. As far as before, after, or feeling spent.
Right.
As far I can tell what I need to work on, type of feeling for sure,
Mm-hmm.
for sure.
So it's funny you mentioned about the cayenne pepper because if I'm on a long ride, I usually carry 2 water bottles as well. One
Right,
just plain water, and the other
right,
one with some sort of mix in it. And so
right,
the one with mix, my hydration one, it's I put spicy stuff in it, but it's like a
right,
spicy mango
Yes.
It's like a spicy, salty mango, and
Yes,
it's pretty
sir.
damn good,
Yes,
dude. It's
sir.
good stuff. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. I like that. I
I
like
don't know
that.
what it
Yes,
is.
sir.
I thought I was the weird one or the odd one out putting
No.
spicy stuff in it.
Oh,
It's
no.
legit though,
Oh,
man.
it's legit. Yeah, I'll do a little dab of cayenne pepper into my water bottle, and
Yeah.
so then just to get that when I'm feeling and I'm drinking it, I can taste the Celtic salt, with the juice, with the cayenne pepper, and then okay, I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
So for sure, no, you're not alone on that for sure,
Pretty
man,
cool.
for
I'm
sure.
curious to hear other people if they have ventured or tried out something
Right,
similar,
right.
just
Yes,
see what
sir.
their thoughts on it. Yeah.
Right,
But I think that
right.
you would have to have an appreciation for spicy stuff in the first place.
Yes,
Not to say that I like
yes.
go crazy with my food because I don't. I just, just a moderate amount of
Right,
just spicy stuff. But if you
right.
don't like spicy, then you might not like this at all
Yes,
either.
sir.
So
Yes,
yeah.
sir.
All right.
1000%.
Yeah. Did you make any friends at
1000%.
the race?
Oh yeah, man. When I first got there and checked into the hotel, I met a guy, and we were talking about our bikes, and we just got to talking and doing that. And so really, a lot of times I do meet a lot of people. A lot of people will look at not there's a lot of people will picture me as the target, as the race, whether, cause sometimes I'll start out fast and, I'll keep going. And as I finish, they'll be like, man, you were my target cause I seen you before the race. And, whether it be cause they see me cause my muscles, or a lot of the times I'm the only black guy there. So,
Yeah.
they're like, oh, he's pretty athletic. He looks athletic. I'm going to try to keep up with him,
Yeah. Yeah.
and so, a lot of times that's not even the case because it's the guy that has the gear that, as I've learned, that has the gear and has the glasses and the bike. Those are the guys that are going to be young, starting out fast.
Yeah.
So as people look up to me, I look up and try to keep up with them.
Okay.
And, a lot of time, and I've also realized the starting pace. Oh no, not starting pace where I start. Sometimes I start in the middle, sometimes I start in the back just
Okay.
to give my mind that, okay, I can pass people.
Right.
But at this pass race, I said, you know what? I'm going to start doing that. I'm going to start at the front.
I started doing the same thing.
And it's that mindset of like, instead of me having to weave through people
Exactly.
and get to that, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to start at the front. If people feel like that about me, well, let me show you,
Yeah.
because I feel like my training and everything that I do, I don't train like most of these people do. Like, obviously, most riders will ride 4 or 5 times a week.
Right.
I'm anywhere from 2 to 3, maybe 4. I maybe try to run 2 to 3,
Mm-hmm.
or, so that aspect, I feel like I'm good and able to, that makes me feel good when I'm able to keep up with those people because they have more times to train and do that. So, it's like once I get that mindset of, all right, well, the more I train, the better I will be. And, I feel like that's because that happens when I get older. A
Yeah.
lot of the times when people that are kicking ass and getting all these, times, it may be the young guy who didn't have kids who has that time, or it may be the 50-year-old who his kids are grown and has that time as well.
Yeah.
So,
Mm-hmm.
my kids are grown. My youngest, he's actually going to graduate high school this year. And so it's like, I won't have to follow him around in sports and
Right.
whatnot. So, I feel like during this training season and the next season that comes, boom, I'll be able to go full force into my training
Yeah.
and go whatever for how long I want to do,
Yeah.
minus obviously my work schedule. But, it's definitely that mindset of where you start for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm with you. I used to start like more towards the back of the pack,
Right,
at the
right,
starting line.
right.
And I mean, I don't, as arrogant as it might sound, but it's like if you start towards the front, that's less people that you have to get
Yes,
around,
yes,
and so
yes,
it just, I guess it just makes it easier in
yes,
that
it
regard.
does. It
Um,
does.
and I mean, as far as like having time, I mean, I'm with you 100%. I've
Right,
got my
right.
5-year-old, and
Yes, sir.
and obviously, being here at the shop, it takes up a lot of your time. So
Right,
it's been a challenge trying to figure out or where you can fit in, your
right,
your sessions.
right.
And I know some people, probably disagree, but like, I don't know. there's times when inevitably I might only have 30 minutes to work out. To
Right.
me personally, like that just isn't enough, but that's
Right.
all I got,
Right.
and so it's like, all right, well,
Yes.
that's all I got, then I'll have to squeeze that
Yes.
in.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, obviously wishing that we had more time to train.
Right.
Just like yesterday, I just, like I said, with my new bike, I've been wanting to test it out, take it out
Right.
for a ride, and it's just sitting there, looking pretty
Right.
and stuff. But trying to find that time, and obviously be a father at the same time,
Yes, sir.
making sure that I pay attention to
Right.
him. It's a
Right.
challenge for sure.
It is. It is.
But we got to appreciate that time too with
Right.
our kids.
Right.
So that's
Yep.
that's obviously more important than
Yes,
anything
sir.
really.
Right. Yes, sir.
But yeah, I mean, so most of my stuff is like at night once he
Right.
goes to bed.
Right.
I'll jump on the trainer, or something
Right.
like that. Which again is the reason why I do most of my miles are indoors. So a
Yes.
lot of my bikes are pretty pristine, because
Yes.
they don't get that road grime.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Because we're 2 hours behind. You're 2 hours behind me. So a lot of times I'll wake up and I'll go to my Strava and I'll see where, you're just getting off the bike, maybe,
Yeah.
3-4 hours. And so to me, that's motivating to me, to where it's like, all right, I don't need to make an excuse, because I just started that time thing where I don't have time where, well, I got 30 minutes. I can still get it in. Something
Right.
is better than nothing.
Yeah.
So, I'll see you do yours and I'm like, man, George got his in.
Yeah.
So it's like, I have no excuse. Like, no
Yep.
matter what the time is, I still need to get that in.
Yeah.
So, more than when I see that, you motivate me to
hell
want to
yeah.
go out and do, what I got to do. So, and I love that aspect. I love because I love, iron sharpens iron, as they say. And it doesn't matter what you look like, what you feel, whatever, that person is just, are they doing, people that do something motivate me, more than the people that go out and do all this extra stuff. You know what I mean? Because it's like life and doing something, life and getting your exercise, can be hard at times. So once you find a way to do that, I know that they do it physically, but also mentally because they feel and it helps them navigate through life. So for sure.
Yeah.
So for sure, person to person, man to man, I want to tell you, thank you for motivating me so that I can be better and help and motivate others and they can look at me the same.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a flow. It's that flow of energy. You know what I mean? So definitely.
Yep. And I mean, again, this is, me, having my full-time gig and being a father.
Right.
And it's like,
Right.
so you've got, family obligations, but, it's
Right.
about priorities,
Right.
it's not going to come to you. Your bike's not going to be like, hey,
Yes.
you've got to make that time.
Yes.
So, yeah. But again, even if it's 30 minutes, on the indoor trainer, they've got some pretty badass workouts that you can do, for 30 minutes, on Zwift.
Right.
You can really, zone out on some, zone 4, zone 5 type stuff.
Yes, sir.
Or races. There's races at 2 a.m. There might be less US people. There'll be more on the UK side.
Right.
But I mean, there's always something going on.
Right.
Even if you got, 20 minutes, 30 minutes for sure.
Most definitely. Yep.
Yeah.
Excuse me. You said something and it's 100%. Oh, what it's like how I was talking about energy, and we talked about the last podcast, athletics, that's just being part of my life. And, you really didn't do athletics. And before I had the gym, people would say, man, people would say now if I had the gym with da 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 da, and it's like, but they didn't see when I was working for a job I didn't want to be at. I had to be to work at 5, me getting up at 3 a.m., going to the gym to go work out, and then going to work, and then having to, when my kids were younger, whatever they were doing, or if I was coaching them in sports, putting in, 16, 18-hour days, and then getting ready to do it all over again. Yeah. That energy, everything that you put into energy, the energy, as people will say, that what you put your energy into is going to be the energy that you get.
Right.
And, I've always had that mindset of, I've always wanted to better myself. I've always wanted to, continue. And it's like, even when I was running, 3 miles back then, and that was hard, it's led me to here now.
Mm-hmm.
And, so the energy that I'm putting in now, the energy we're putting in now, I'm more so, a lot of people don't want to look forward to getting old, but I do, because it's like 5 years from now, where is this going to be? Where are we going to be? You know, it's like 10 years from now, where are we going to be? So
Yep.
energy is everything. That energy and circulation, that's, you know, always what I'm going to go back to, because that's ultimately going to predict where your life is going to be and where you're at now,
Yep.
you know, and what you're doing now. So when you said that, I wanted to go back to that and, you know, just kind of reiterate, like, hey, you know, it's easy to make an excuse, but, you know, us being business owners and having kids and wanting to do the training, you know, finding the time, it's easy to make excuse, well, I don't have time.
Right.
You know, when you do have the time, whether it's 20, 30 minutes, is just, are you going to do it in that time frame,
Right.
even though you want to go longer?
Right.
You know what I'm
Right.
saying? So
Yeah.
definitely.
It's about, you know, substituting things in life, like prioritizing. Like I hardly have time to watch TV,
Right.
you know, or I might
Right.
have like maybe 5 minutes to watch TV. Like seriously,
Right.
you know what I mean?
Right.
But you know, it's again about prioritizing. Or you know, I just think about it. It's like, okay, I could sit here on the couch and watch TV,
Right.
or I can watch TV while I'm on the trainer. You know,
Right. Right.
because again, not every workout has to be zone 5. You know what I mean?
Yes.
You know, you can do a you can do a recovery zone 1. You know,
Yes.
just move.
1000%. Yes,
and
sir.
so you know, so that means that, like, you know, you're not overexerting yourself, so you can still watch a movie.
Right.
Or challenge yourself, like a full movie, you know, like, you know,
Right.
from beginning to end. I've,
Right.
you know, done that before, where it's like, you know what, I mean, I'm not feeling it. I just want to
Right.
just zone out, just watch a movie. I'm just
Yes.
gonna do a long recovery ride, you know,
Right.
and not overthink it.
Right.
So
Right.
but it's just keeping that going,
Yes,
substituting things,
sir.
you know, in life,
Yes,
things that you
sir.
don't need with. So yeah.
Yep. 1000%.
Yep.
1000%.
Where can
So
people
I don't,
find us? What's our email? That way people can email us.
my Instagram is QC Yoga. My X is QC Yoga. You can find me on Facebook at Quintin R. Collins Sr. As you see behind me, my training, QC training, I have that on Facebook. My Instagram got hacked, but
Shit.
yeah, man, it was the most craziest thing. But
Was it Otto sending some DMs?
yeah, it was somebody. Yeah, a guy I knew sent me a DM and asked me to vote for him, and
Yeah.
I was going on there to vote, and bam, they got my email. They got in there that way, and I was like, damn. And I
Yep.
tried, you know, so it was like, and I haven't did another one because I have so many other handles that I'm doing.
Yeah.
Now, you know, yeah, the QC training, you know, you can follow me on those as well. But yeah, YouTube, yeah, Quintin Collins. You'll see all of our episodes with and you know, where can people find you at?
So I'm on Facebook, Instagram. People can find me under either Eric Sosa or G Eric Sosa, and I'm on YouTube as well. I just got a few uploads there. They can find me on Strava, you know, under Eric Sosa. You know, for those that want to really follow, you know, our daily activities.
Yes.
And then, you know, I want to hear from the audience. So, you know, for those that want to email, you know, us, they can reach out to us on Weekend Endurance.
Weekend Endurance Podcast at gmail.com.
Yep. So with that, we'll wrap up.
Yep. I've been your co-host, Quintin Collins.
Eric Sosa.
And this is the Weekend Endurance Podcast, and we'll see y'all next time.
See ya.
See ya.